Fuck yes. Oh my God. Like night and day. Moto dork. Full power. I'm back in business. So, for the past 2 weeks, this thing has been running so sluggish since I got it all put back together. I put it all back together, and it's been running so sluggish, like it's drowning out, like it has no power, bogging down, flooding out. And so I got together with Steve in sunny Florida. Steve, whose last name I can't remember how to pronounce. And he spent a whole week on the phone with me trying to figure out what the problem was. And we've been going through piece by piece, starting with the bottom, working our way up. One thing I discovered was I didn't have one of my spark plugs tight. In fact, it wasn't even tight at all. It was completely loose. So I fixed that. Got it back out on the road. No different. Well, a little different. It was a little bit more powerful, but not much. And the thing about it is, it was sluggish and like drowning out, flooding out, but every now and then it would lurch forward like it was trying to do full power. Like it was there, but it couldn't do it. But it could do it just in spurts, like this. And I'm thinking, you know, that to me just, it seems electrical. That's not a problem with compression or whatever. And one thing I noticed was all three, out of the 4 spark plugs, 3 of them looked perfect after a week of testing the bike. But one of them, number 2, was black and grimy. Almost like it wasn't even firing at all. Or just barely firing. Some of the things I did for this bike when I had it all apart was I bought new spark plugs, new spark plug boots, new spark plug wires, and new ignition coils. But I scrimped on the ignition coils, and I bought some off of eBay that were not Kawasaki OEM. And I thought, fuck, they should be fine. Well, yeah, apparently not. Because I put the old ignition coil back on this side. And this coil is what feeds cylinders 2 and 3. This coil over here does 1 and 4. This one does 2 and 3. And I was thinking, okay, cylinder number 2 is all grimy. The spark plug's all grimy. The bike was running fine before I had that coolant problem. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to put the old ignition coil back in this bank right here. And now look. Look, perfect. It's perfect. So I'm just going to put the old one back here too, and just put the old ones back on. And maybe one day I'll order some actual OEM ignition coils. I mean, look, I am grabbing the road in 6th gear. Grabbing the road, and I'm doing almost 70. I need to slow down. I'm just so excited. I'm just so excited. I'm so excited. I mean, I was so excited I broke my own cardinal rule by getting on the bike in not full gear. I am wearing gloves, I am wearing a helmet, but I'm not wearing anything else, and I broke my cardinal rule, and I shouldn't have, but God, I just needed to get on this thing and test it, and I'm glad I did. me. This is so awesome. Whew. Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. Could not. Oh. 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 This is beautiful. Oh yes. Yes. Whew. And this carburetor is just running so well. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Steve. And thank you, Steve, for spending a week on the phone with me to try to figure this out. Oh, man. Well, I'm getting low on gas, too. I've only kept a minimum amount of gas just above reserve because I've been taking the tank off over and over again. But it does have fresh 93 octane in it. Oh. Thick thighs and witchy vibes. Okay. Heathens on board. And it's a witchy woman. Okay. So, while I'm here, let me tell you what happened with my bike. With the old ZG1000 Concours. About 6 months ago, I was going to take it for a really long day ride, and because it had been a little while since I'd been on it because of weather. I don't ride this thing in rain if I can avoid it. I just don't. Now, I got caught in a lightning storm in the mountains of North Carolina. Couldn't do anything about that. But so I was going to take a day ride. I was really looking forward to it, and I pulled right down there to 5 Star to get some gas, and I was just about to start pumping gas, and I looked down and there was a puddle of coolant forming under the bike, like right here. And I freaked out and I jumped on the bike and I raced home. My house is about 5 or 6 miles south from here. I raced home as I was actively losing coolant. And I got home and I had maybe, I stuck a cup underneath it. I had maybe a third of a liter, and that was it. And I thought it was leaking from the radiator because there was coolant on the radiator. But when I started tearing this thing apart and I got everything off the bike, and I mean I got everything off, I discovered that it was actually one of the coolant hoses, because this bike has 5 different coolant hoses of various sizes and lengths. or various lengths, I'll say that. They're all the same size. Various lengths. And it was the one right behind the exhaust headers. And this bike is 20 years old this year. 20 years old, it's got 68,000 on it. I've owned it for 10 years, and I am the second owner, technically the second owner. The first owner owned it for about 6 months, I think. And then the second owner owned it for 10 years, roughly. So I like to call myself the second owner. I don't count the first owner. And he didn't even break it in. When I bought it 10 years ago, it was 10 years old and it had 27,000. So I've put twice the amount of miles on it that the first owner did during that first 10 years, in my 10 years. But I'm digressing. So that hose had been baking behind the exhaust headers for 10 years, and it finally just got too brittle and it cracked open, and coolant was squirting out of it. And that's where the coolant came from. So, like I said, when I got home, I just tore the thing apart all the way down. I even took the exhaust off, because here's what I did. So, getting back to what I was talking about, here's everything I replaced on this bike. Brand new exhaust headers. And by the way, unless I make note of it, everything is OEM Kawasaki. Let's see, what else? All new coolant hoses, a new thermostat. Let's see, what else? New exhaust, or new spark plug wires, spark plug boots. I bought new ignition coils, like I said earlier, but they were not Kawasaki OEM, and neither are the spark plug boots and spark plug wires. Those came from Murph's kits, and let me tell you, it's really nice living in Kentucky, ordering from Murph's, because he's in Kentucky, about an hour and a half west of here. So props to Murph's, who always gets me my stuff within 2 days. So let's see, what else did I, oh yeah, got Steve in sunny Florida to completely rebuild my carburetors, clean them, rebuild them, put kits in them, did a mod on the jets to give me a little more power, a new air box, new air filter, of course new oil filter, all new oil, all new coolant. I actually have another new part coming, this right here. I'm replacing this with a new one, because this one's getting a little rusty inside there, so I'm replacing it. So yeah, let's see what else. Tons and tons of new bolts and nuts and screws. Banjo bolts for all the oil fittings and washers, lots of washers, lots of gaskets, new gaskets, all new O-rings for all the coolant pipes and fittings, tons of new O-rings, new water pump, let's see, I mean, all together in parts, I believe I spent close to $2,000, or right at least $2,000, and maybe a little more. So I'm in 6th gear right now, and so much get up and go, so much power. Yeah, I think I am going to put that old ignition coil back on for bank 1. I think I'm going to do that. So I'm starting to think either that coil was just bad or it's made for some other motorcycle. I don't know. I don't know. So, now that I've got all that done and it's working again and everything's beautiful and sunny, the next thing I'm tackling on this bike is going to be the drive shaft and the final drive gear. And all this right here. I don't remember what that's called. Here's the real test. Now, yesterday, this thing was losing power in 6th gear going up this hill. It was losing speed, losing power. And now I'm in 6th gear and I'm gaining speed, which is how it should be with this bike. No more eBay parts when it comes to electrical system. Murph's is fine. Murph's has been selling parts to people who own this bike for years and years. But no more eBay junk